wonky on your ass. All right, that's more like it. Alrighty. We are getting back up to speed here, and we're up. Alright. Let's see what happens. William York. You're already having connection problems, and we haven't even gotten started yet. Oh, I heard you. I heard you. Just the video looks better. You can pull away, pull away. Going with you. What is it? Tuesday? Tuesday. Oh, I got a whole lot of nobody out here. 3.5 minutes in. Nobody. $16.9. Oh, the silence out there is deafening. All right, fine. I'll just talk to myself. I pulled in for fuel. I had to get something to eat. I have shied away from soda, so I'm drinking a modified water product called Liquid Death. That was the can I just had was a spring water, which I find myself enjoying profusely. I was going to jump in the shower, but there wasn't a shower available. There were 7 people in line, and they didn't have that many showers, which means I would have been standing there a good 30, 40 minutes, and I don't want to stand there 30 or 40 minutes. So I'm going to another pilot up here, hopefully later in the evening when nobody's around. Whoop, I got one. Woo! Alrighty. Do a quick update. Stop for gas. Had to pee, had to get something to eat. And I was going to take a shower, and I found out the line was too long, so I'm going to go to the next pilot about 200 miles, and they're gone. That was my one. Ooh, that was fun. All right. Oh, there we got another one back. All right. I was just saying, hey, I just got off for fuel. I was down to like an eighth of a tank. I hit the pilot. I got gas. Whoa, I cannot read that. I literally cannot read that. But I went to the pilot, got fuel. I checked the shower. There was a huge line of people, and there's like 7 people, like 4 showers, which means I'm going to be there 45 minutes. I didn't want to wait. So I'm going to try to hit a shower here further down on another pilot later when everybody's asleep. I am going to attempt to get as close to my destination as humanly possible up here in Cranberry, New Jersey. I will dial up the pilot that I already have. It's on Highway 78. That's where I'm going right now. This is about 30 miles west of Williamsport, Pennsylvania, heading eastbound at night on I-80, and I really enjoy it. That guy's got a lot of light on that truck. And I like driving at night. I prefer driving at night. And when there's nobody in front of me, I get to use my high beams, and this van's got some buckets for high beams. I like using it. When we had light, there were quite a few deer out running around. But for some reason, this I-80 in Pennsylvania does not go through a lot of big towns. Ooh, there's a mountain range right there. Hello, how you doing? You said hi twice. Cool. Uh, join in. This feed may drop and come back. I don't know because it reset already once. And it's dark out, but I can see I'm surrounded by mountains, so there is a possibility that this is going to drop. But I'll let it work its way back around. I apologize in advance. Um, I-8 eastbound in Pennsylvania. I am about 30 miles short to the west of Williamsport. They show a hand emoji, and when there's the chat. Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it. They show a hand emoji. Wait, okay, that's kind of cool. And oh, somebody cussing on the radio. That's always good. I got a delivery on board. This is my third stream. I had to stop and get something to drink, something to eat, and I was, like I said earlier, I was going to jump on the line was too long, and I didn't want to spend 45 minutes waiting around. So I'll go to the next pilot / Flying J about 200 miles up here, and by then everybody should be asleep. It won't be a line. But I've got a pallet on board. I picked up north of Detroit. There's a car right there on the side of the road. Huh. I picked up a single pallet for Amazon, and it's kind of weird how Amazon does this. Well, this pallet's not knee high, and it weighs 750 pounds. I don't even know what it is. And unlike every other delivery I do, you just don't get to deliver this. You have to call them 1 hour out. And I don't know how it's going to unfold beyond that, but they don't open till 6. And I want to deliver it at 6, but there's not going to be anybody there. So I'll be local at 6, and I'll call and then maybe say I'll be there in an hour. Or maybe they'll say, yeah, come on in, I'll get in. Then I am going to be desperate to get a load tomorrow, Wednesday, to get back west. I got to go to Western New York. Then I got to pick up the wife on Friday at Pittsburgh Airport. So I need to get something going back in that direction. New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, I don't really care. But it would be nice to get paid to go that way. Oh, we're losing a lane here. So that's why I'm going to get everybody's way. There's a lot of vehicles out here. What's weird about I-80 is there's not, I have to speed up to get out of this guy's way. There's not a lot of towns out here. I'm a little surprised. In like 250 miles of driving, I don't recall seeing any towns, just woods like this. Now there's a lot of trucks right here at this particular moment in time, but generally speaking, there is nothing out here. I don't know what that's all about, but I like it. Now, if I could just get away from all these trucks, where I could just be my own self in it. All right, slow back down again. Okay, here we go. Oof. Yeah, this third lane went away back there. You're driving along in a van, you've got untold hours to let your brain drift around, wander around. A friend of mine, growing up, we were kids in Colorado. He, he lived in a house with his family, and on one side was his grandfather, and I think on the other side was his great uncle. And behind that house, there was a 1964 Ford Falcon on blocks that had been in a traffic accident back in the early 70s, and the right front was all smashed in on it. It was sitting on blocks that had been out there since it crashed. And I remember I was like 13, 14 years old. I remember saying to my buddy's father, I said, this is pre-internet era. I said, why don't you sell that? He's like, oh, I don't know. I said, put it on Auto Trader, which was the only thing we had back then. I said, somebody's looking for that car. They need that. They tried to finish a car out. That one's got like factory air conditioning. It's all crushed in the corner, but somebody's looking for that car. And I kind of got his dad a little excited. He worked it. He sold it. You know, this is back in the early 80s. He sold it for like $600 or something. But $600 versus a piece of metal sitting in your yard taking up space for a couple of decades. He sold it. And that kind of what got me cued into looking for unusual items that people think are just trash that they just kind of, discard, don't worry about it. And in the 19, well, this was more recent. This was 2000, maybe 2015. There was an estate sale in Texas. And they were cleaning out this guy's property, and he had a trailer sitting on his property, like a truck trailer, like that right there in front of us. And in it was a 1985 Camaro, which is not exactly a collectible car. Nothing special about that. The IROC, you're old enough to remember the old IROC seat. Uh, car was black. What was interesting is it had, I think, 13 miles on the odometer. It had yes, that's the radio. Sorry, the it had the window sticker 16,000, and it still had the plastic on the seats. And they're like, "What are we gonna? We can't drive this thing." So they took it and cleaned it up. They left it as is, but made it clean, and they put it in a museum somewhere. Because what else do you do with a 40-year-old car, or not 30-year-old car at the time, I think, that has 11 miles on the odometer? It's like you can't drive it. So they put it in a museum somewhere as a barn find. And I thought that was kind of cool, kind of funny. And then a few years after that, a guy had a grandmother that had an old Mustang. It wasn't in a barn. It was like under a heavy carport, and it had stopped running years and years and years ago. They gave it to one of their sons, and he did some research on it and found out it was a 64 and a half Mustang, all original, serial number 2. Number 1 being in the museum, number 2 being in his possession. I remember him selling that, and I went to some museum somewhere as is, and I thought that was kind of cool. Uh, this is bizarre. I had the road all to myself, and now I got cars all around me. I found out that if for any reason I have to swipe off the screen and come back, I lose my comment section. I learned that here last time around. So I will endeavor to persevere to not flip that off again because I like seeing, there you go, comments. There's a meeting. I had one of those. That's the last car I owned before I sold it, bought this van to do this job. Oh, he's got some lights. Check that dude out. Where's that? Oh, I still have 149 miles to go on this road before I turn. Bleh. But I do like driving at night. I just wish I wasn't surrounded by all these vehicles. You do see deer on the side of the road around here, and they're not overly concerned with cars. Not humid. Enjoy that. It's going to make sleep tonight easy. Actually, with the limits on driving that CDL drivers are dealing with, I'm a little surprised there's this many vehicles out there. To be honest with you, these guys are usually shut down by now. It's just odd. Your dad had a friend. We were kids. His name was John Moylan. I imagine he's not around anymore. And he was also an airline pilot. I come from all family and friends are airline pilots. I guess he was my dad's age, and he would be in his 80s if he's around. John was the guy that lived the lifestyle that every guy wants to live. He was Indiana Jones. He was Adventures of the Gold Monkey. He had a house up in the mountains. And back in the early 80s, when I was around him, when I was in his presence, he would call my dad in the middle of the night and say, "Send me $10,000 right now." And just for entertainment, my dad would do it because whatever this guy touched turned into gold. Um, One time he did it because he was in the Black Sea off the coast of Turkey and somehow found some gold coins somewhere by a drilling rig. And then he hired someone to take him out there and dive to get him. And he had to pay the boat people. And then when the government found out what they were doing, he was getting shot at. He told us the whole story, and they got chased into somebody else's waters, getting shot at, had to run cross country and got these coins out and pays my dad the money back and then splits the profits with him. It was really a funny thing the guy would do. Another time in 1982, he calls my dad, "Oh my God, send me $15,000. And when the Falklands War happened, the Argentinian government flipped from a military junta to a civilian government, and their economy went through some gyrations. And he caught a moment with real estate, for whatever, how this happens, I don't know, but the real estate market crashed, and he bought back then, which was $100,000 condominium for like $8 grand, and then a month later it did bounce back and he caught it during a time of panic. But one of the coolest things he ever did was he again got my dad out of the blue, said, "I need money for blah blah blah," and he got it. He showed up at the house, and the guy drove an old Ford something. Maybe a bit of Javelin. I've seen the car. I just can't remember what it was. An old POS car that he drove. I don't know what he did with his money. He said, "Let's go show you what we bought." We're like, "Cool." And we get in his car. I lived in Reno at the time. He drives east out of Reno. And we went about 25, 30 miles, then turned north and drove for another, I don't know, another half an hour. And we're getting down dirt roads further and further out. And finally, we get to this little valley, West Railway Station. We get to this little tiny valley, and there is a tiny 1950s house sitting there, abandoned, doors wide open, dusted and blowing out, tumbleweed, and a barn that is leaning over to one side, a little tiny barn, and it's all I can describe. It's sunburnt, like the wood is almost blackened from the sun. It's a sunburnt barn, and it's starting to lean to one side. We pull in, and he says, "We bought this area. It was only a couple of acres of land, like 4 or something, this valley. And it looked like it had a riverbed, but the riverbed, is that closed? Yes, it's closed. The riverbed didn't have water in it, but it had some trees growing. It's just a kind of a barren area. So my brother and I go charging into the house and run through the rooms. There's nothing there. It's everybody and their brother has probably been through there in the last 30, 40, 50 years. He said, "I bought this on a tax sale. The last person that owned it had it in like 1959, some name, just a two-letter initials and a last name. They don't know who it is. They can't find it, so they bought it off tax. And we're running around something. We're like, okay, gold. You know, you run over to the barn, and the barn is leaning so far to one side you can't open the doors. They're just twisted. Run around back, and there was a remnants of an old tractor behind the barn, rust. So we finally said, okay, we give up. What is it? He goes back to the car, and he comes back with a crowbar, and he pops the door, forces the door open. The barn had been built on top of an airplane. They didn't open the doors and put the airplane in. They built the barn over the doors and covered it up completely. You couldn't get the plane out through the doors. And looking at it, the first thing I noticed is it had 450 caliber machine guns in it. It was a did that? Somebody's lights just went out behind me. It was a P-40 Warhawk. That's the early war fighter plane that they would paint big teeth on it. And it was sitting there facing us as we stared in. The machine guns were in it. The tires were flat and completely bald, from being worn out. Whoa, that guy's in a hurry. Completely bald tires, worn out flat, covered in bird crap. Ran around and looked into the cockpit. The cockpit was pulled back, and it had so many decades of buildup of bird garbage in there. You really couldn't see. You couldn't even see what was in the cockpit. It was so disgusting. But it was a P-40 Warhawk. He said the serial number, this plane was written off as destroyed in China in 1942. Now, how it ended up in this barn, 1982, from the 50s, is unknown. You can't fly it that far, so there's no telling how it ended up there. But I remember they auctioned that plane off. They brought a crane out and lifted the barn off of it, and they auctioned it as is, where is. And I don't remember the money. That wasn't my thing, but I remember it was a big deal in the news back then. But that's what this guy did. He could travel around the world and find stuff, find interesting things to get involved in, little investments. I haven't really thought about the guy since the early 80s, mid-80s, about what happened. He got to live the lifestyle. Wow, there's a lot of trucks out here. So yeah, something like 20.6. Wow. Had another friend of the family, my buddy's friend of the family. He was a guy, old guy, probably in his 80s. This is 40 years ago, so he's long gone. He had a little tiny house. And in the front room, behind the door, he had a collection of rifles and shotguns sitting against the wall. And my friend picked up one of them. He said, "Let me show you something." A standard shotgun, the main shotgun everybody uses, a 12 gauge. And how you measure the gauge on a shotgun is if you take the pellets out of a 12 gauge, 12 rounds for the weapon, the shot equals a pound. A 20 gauge shotgun, the shot from 20 rounds makes a pound. So the higher the number, the lower the actual charge. And a 12 gauge is the standard that most people use. And in a few unusual instances, people have a 10 gauge. I don't know when you're shooting out helicopters or something, but a 10 gauge, very, very few people use a 10 gauge. 12 gauge is the standard. Well, this shotgun, he had a double barrel behind the table that was an 8 gauge, which I'd never heard of. I saw it, never seen one since, never heard of one since. But this guy had one. I don't even know if you could buy ammunition for something like that. But I was interested to see an a truly oddball weapon like that. Oof. Well, I had the pilot. I got the meatloaf and mashed potatoes, and I ate it really fast, and now I'm regretting it because my stomach hurts. But it's one of those rare pilots that has the actual food you can buy versus garbage off the shelf. I ate it too quick. Choo choo. See if it's in here. Aha! See the benefit. Just working on a headache. Trying to head it off the pass. All right. So, lights on there. Okay, starting to thin out a little bit. I'll be up here for a while, so I'm going to think eventually the highway is going to thin out. I don't have to worry about this anymore. All these lights and stuff. But if you look, I don't know if you can see it on film, but there's trees on both sides of the road in tight. See if this will work. Nope. Nope, that doesn't work. Yeah, you can't see. There's trees all around us. Real heavy. Ooh. You guys getting it? Look at that. Getting it. He's not paying for fuel. Where's everybody from tonight? What part of the world? I don't recognize these names on here. The first one I can't even pronounce. I can't even see the symbols on it. Was that the end of the line? Ha! There's nobody else coming up behind me at this point. That's a good sign. That means in the near future, because I'm going 62 in a 70, and hopefully all this traffic will. You can't see it on film, but these trucks in front of me, their headlights are glowing in the trees, which looks kind of cool. Heard these guys on the radio complaining about truckers wearing flip flops. I wear flip flops. Not this particular moment, but I wear flip flops. If you set the cruise control, take your feet off the pedals and just sit here. $42.6 miles per gallon, which is decent for this. Anybody got a question? This is we're expediting, which is, if you're new here, expediting is truck driving in a box van. It's carrying one or two pallets on a hurry up load. We're the overnight kind of hurry up, we need it right now situation. Whereas if you order product, let's say, I'm just making up ideas here, but from California, you order your product, a local hotshot guy will get it to the warehouse. It'll sit in the warehouse until there's enough product going, let's say East Coast. Then your product and a bunch of others get in the truck and ride to the East Coast using the stops they have to use for time for the drivers. And then it makes it to a warehouse on the East Coast and it gets sorted. And then a local hotshot driver turns around and delivers it to the end user. Sometimes they don't have that kind of time for a certain product or something they need. So they call an expediter that goes to the source, usually, or warehouse, but the source picks up whatever they need and drives directly to the end user and bypasses everything in the middle because they don't have time for that. And this last week, for Saturdays when it happened, I was in Tennessee on Friday and I picked up a transmission. It's a Dodge transmission. I picked it up and I expedited it and got it Saturday morning, 6 in the morning. I was in West Virginia to a company that was an asphalt line company that was on its way to a big project. And they going to, and they have a lowboy trailer, that big asphalt machine, that thing you see rolling really slow down the road when they're pouring asphalt and smashing it down. The truck that was hauling it, the transmission fell out of it, like right there in the parking lot. So I was the one bringing them that transmission to install it. They were happy as a clam when I got there because the whole project was shut down waiting on that part, that entire transmission, and it was hurting their bottom line. That's why they got it expedited. It'll get there sometime next week. The other example of you need, there we go. Hi beams, we. Um, Another example of we need it right now. There was this is a few years ago. I was expediting. I did it for a while and I stopped. But there was an outfit in Marshall, Indiana, that made computer chips. Remember the computer chip shortage for cars? These guys were running 3 shifts and they were making these little look like little Jolly Rancher candies. They were making them as fast as they could. And there were 3 or 4 vans parked out front waiting in line. They just calling everybody they could, and they would get enough chips together to fill a pallet, and they would throw it on a vehicle and say, go. And I drove nonstop from Marshall, Indiana to Dallas Fort Worth area where they had a GM plant. And I pulled in there and they were very excited to see me. And they said, go to the ramp over there. And as fast as I could turn the van around, the forklift showed up, which never happens. The guy said that they were 40 minutes shutting the entire factory down waiting on these chips. They did everything they could do up to that point, and then they would just start the choke point. So they were very happy that I got there, and I was a few hours early too, so I saved up a little money on that. But that's how close it could be sometimes, and why they can't wait for product to work its way through the system. They need it right now, right now, right now, right now. Well, like I said, be aware this feed may drop at some point. It's dropped a couple times. I will hang out and see if it comes back, but it's losing it out here. This is I-80. We're on the eastern side-ish, middle eastern side of Pennsylvania. I-80 eastbound, coming up on Williamsport, and blowing straight through it, not even slowing down. En route to Cranberry, New Jersey, to an Amazon place, but I'm going to have to stop up here at a pilot, a couple 150 miles. I'm going to try to jump in the shower. And depending on the distance, I may just take a nap there too. I don't know. Well, I got to sleep at some point. Oh, that's looking better. Charging up all my batteries here. Just check. Paid $3.05 for gas. That's a little higher than I'm used to paying. But such is life. Let's see. Reptilian Zoo. Oh, here we go. Woohoo! Sorry, I'm entertained by high beams. There's Williamsport, Lewisburg. Oh, I did last year. Guys, they're winding it up tonight. Uh, well, it's hard to see, but we seem to be out of. That's either a concrete plant on the right or a grain silo, one of the two. Starting to lean more towards a concrete plant. Sorry. Yeah, that's a plant. Oh, they got rail cars everywhere. Yoink, that right there. Let's see. I will take this moment to admit I'm kind of tired right now. That's why I come on here. It keeps me awake. Oh, I have to look at my paperwork. I don't even know. I'm going to get it there as fast as I can in the morning, but I don't even know the actual delivery time for this package. Go west, east. Gotta go east. Wife and I, when we went on our trip back in 2018, we went up to northern Wyoming on the border between Wyoming and Idaho to pick up that helicopter to come back. And our flight took us Houston to Denver, and then we got on a little tiny jet and went Denver to Cody, Wyoming. It did 165-mile taxi ride to the town of 10 Sleeps, literally. I don't even think they had a stop sign. It was still a small town. Well, we had a huge layover in Denver, and it was in September. And the temperature outside was perfect. And up on the side of a hill under by the airport, they had some chairs, like lounge chairs, under this area that there was nobody around there except us. We were up there laying in these chairs in the shade. The temperature was perfect. The humidity was non-existent. We were just kind of laying there being slugs. And we had hours to wait. And right next to us was like a little coffee shop. So we had access to food, coffee, and a bathroom. So we had that right there. And we were like by ourselves. And my wife and I both concluded, you know what? I can, what the heck is that? Wow, looked like a little person on the side of the road back there. Um, we both concluded that we'd be just fine sitting here for the rest of the week. It was so relaxing and so perfect. That's the thing about dry climates, is it makes it makes being outside so much nicer. Okay, back to high beams. That popped into my head earlier today. We had to get on our flight. You know, you go through security, airport security, and you go through the metal and all that garbage. You get in this line, and it just takes forever. They have that airport was built in the '90s. Stapleton closed, and they moved east and put DIA, Denver International Airport, open. And their security, the line to go through security goes on forever, but the line never stops moving. You don't stop moving you or your bags. The line just moves, because they've got it set up so efficiently that you blast right through it, and you're on the way to the terminal, your concourse. And that I've never seen before or since, where the traffic of the security line doesn't stop. Houston is a lot of stop and go, a lot of standing around, a lot of looking at each other. Denver International Airport, soon. Turn headlights on. Yeah, right. Another truck in a hurry. Ding, ding. Expect delays. I will not. Yeah, other than passing through New Jersey to go to lower Manhattan Island and back for the Cannonball, I've never been to New Jersey in my life. Just drove across and back. Never stopped there. So this is going to be an all new experience. Wait, is my gas mileage up? Oh, 23.3. Right on. Gas mileage going up. Oh, yeah, you can't get mad at me. I'm not the one holding up traffic. Oh, straight 2 miles. Nope. And this is way too many trucks on the road for this time. I got a few more hours to drive. I'm hoping this is going to go away completely. Next, West area, 27. Nope. But he's dodging lanes here. Trucks and buses left lane only. Is that closed? That looks closed. I know that sound. Let's see where this pops up. Or not. All right. That's legitimate. Must be in the parking lot. Being creepy. Picking it back up. Uh, for coming in just now, we are continuing the drive from north side of Detroit, about 30, 40 miles, going to Cranberry, New Jersey. I don't think we're going to get all the way there tonight. Just stopped for fuel. I'm on I-80 eastbound on Pennsylvania, past Williamsport. So I'm kind of in the middle of the state, maybe towards the eastern side. I got 118 miles to go on this road before I make a turn up here, and that's going to get me closer to a pilot I'm going to whip into to jump in the shower because this last one had a line, and I didn't want to sit there 30, 40 minutes waiting. Figure I get up here, there won't be a line. You get late enough at night, people aren't I got my radio squelched down. It's still going off. Gas the nitro. Now, either means there's a cop up here or he's driving with us. That's what's causing it to go off. Oh, they got a noisemaker. Stay in your lane. Okay. Okay. You no smash of the brake lights. Oh, me. You no smash up. It's one of these weird things where they split the highway. You have all these lanes you can see up there. There's vehicles going the same way we're going due to construction constraints. Instead of having just one lane, they'll have two, but they're spread out. What are you mad about, dude? I got a guy behind me flashing his lights at me. I mean, like, there's like vehicles in front of me. You notice that, right? We dodge back into the line. Here's where it all comes back together. You're out of there. And back up to speed. And done. 62. Please stay tuned. Oh, same car twice. On the CRX times two. Hey, dude, pick a lane. Pick a lane. Pick a lane. Preferably not the one I'm in. Uh, oops. Power. Put back on. 5-0. not much happening tonight. Way too many vehicles on the road, which kind of takes away from my fun. So I'm going to go ahead and bow out for now. I'll catch up with you guys probably tomorrow. Take care.